So now we get to move on to our third writer whose work we get to celebrate tonight. And this is a debut collection. Now I'm going to ask you to mute if you haven't remuted after we applauded Dino and before we continue. And then I'm going to have the very, very great privilege of introducing Rebecca Cullen, and her extraordinary debut, A Reader's Guide to Time. I love everything about this book. Very occasionally you read a book and you think, maybe this was just written for me. And it's phenomenal wit and intelligence, its gentleness, its brilliance. It has one of the most clever structures and concepts of a collection I've seen it in a very, very long time. It's a very, very, very deeply developed, thought through, delivered extraordinary piece of work, and I feel so lucky today to be introducing two debuts from two just completely extraordinary writers who we're going to get to celebrate for decades and decades to come. But this is a truly, truly wonderful book, one that you can read right the way through, you can dip in and out of in all kinds of ways, and that just explores its subject matter with such profundity. I've known Becky's work for quite a long time, having read stuff in anthologies and in journals, and have become a bit of a sort of crazy fan. And so it's just when Kirsten sent through the judging results, I had a little dance around the office in response. And lots of us know Becky's work from the various anthologies and places it's appeared, but she has a doctorate in creative and critical writing, and in fact has done a lot of teaching and supporting and nurturing of other writers, and as such is a really important part therefore of a sort of, you know, the wider poetry ecology. She was the second poet in residence at Newstead Abbey, the ancestral home of George Gordon Lord Byron, director of the Writing, Reader and Pleasure extracurricular programme at Nottingham Trent University. She also presents and curates the Knots TV book club. She's always got so much time and generosity for other poets, so it feels fantastic that tonight we get to make the next half hour all about her. So a massive hooray, and over to Kirsten for a bit about why she chose this book.
Hello. Yeah, I think the structure was the thing that struck me first with this collection. A Reader's Guide to Time is blocked into varieties of time, some that might be more familiar and ones that Cullen's created as dubbed and coined. So these varieties of time take the form of either psychological windows or literal time or sort of huge era-sized fossils. Women's time was one of my favorite examples, and it feels like a quite sharply observed response to something that's been discussed more and more in recent years, the devaluing of time taken for tasks that we code as feminine, such as child rearing and running repairs on emotional connections. You might have sort of heard people talking about emotional labor. I guess that's what I'm thinking of. The sections vary wildly in size, style, tone and format, and it feels a little like it's been curated by a ghost. It feels like it's been curated by Virginia Woolf's Orlando, who's mentioned later in the book, who shifts between times, genders and forms, so they're outside it all. There's a whole running set of themes of shape-shifting, costume, a spot of freakery in many of the characters in the book, from the giant lad crossing the causeway with his mother to the opening folklore of the rock at Lizard Point. And then there's the character Lark, who's nervously heading to her dinner party with a garrote tucked inside her bag. I love that flash of darkness in the sort of bourgeois manners, like a play of manners. We see the painful transition into adulthood, disturbing changes in the body, alongside the regression of an adult through illness to a childlike state. So time goes back, forth, and bends back on itself. They're almost like a set of modern folk tales, but they don't come with warnings or morals. And I really like the openness of that presentation. It's basically saying, yes, there are horrors and threats and uncertainties, and we can't change those any more than we can stop time itself. There's also a bit of a hint of Raymond Queneau's exercises in style in the headers in the collection. And stylistically, I found that Cullen's work is actually more acerbic and intricate than exercises in style, so it stands very much apart from that. It's got an ear for texture and sounds, subtle half rhymes, lovely abrupt shifts in rhythm, register, and line length, and a really strong sense of the uncanny, which is absolute catnip to me. These are poems that kind of perch in the shadows and observe everyday darknesses to the ticking of the clock. So over to Rebecca. Again, very much looking forward to hearing these come to life.
I don't know what to say now. You've said everything. Thank you so much for those comments, and thank you, Helen and Live Canon, for publishing the collection. And I don't know how to follow Dino and Barbara, to be honest. I think the champagne should be out already, but anyway, I'll do what I can. So I'm going to read from this collection, and I'm going to start off with a prologue, which hopefully explains some of my fascination with time. The prologue. It's not place which interests me. When everything is strange and different, perhaps writing comes more easily. Go somewhere, see something, write something down. I've walked the same routes, the same days of the week, the same months in different years. Try seeing the same thing for years and years. Cry or dance on the same street when you are 16 and 27 and 45. Try seeing spring differently, so that the 50th time you see the same cherry trees, they are as fresh and new as that first hazy glimpse. I sit on the same bench in 1973 and 1982, several times in 1997, last year, but the bench and I have always been the present. When I look at the bench, I see all those nows. When I sit down, those presents converse. There is no distinction between past, present, and future. I walk it, taking all my people with me. Consider time, the way it collects and stays, the way it transforms place to make it look different and the same, the way it moves and binds and rests. I love the layer upon looping layer, thick and impenetrable, difficult to climb over or circumvent. Time is gritty in the air. Don't say it. Let it bend, dissembling and blurring the past and present, leaping backwards from the future. Put yourself in time, not place. Play like this so you don't know when you are. It's time I love, winding as a cat wraps round an ankle. So, if my husband is watching, I could really do with a glass of water. So yeah, he's coming. Good. That's good. So I'm going to read from the section called Narrative Time, brackets, Myths, Legends, and this poem is called The Enigma. Oh, and I should tell you that chromneomancy is a word for telling the future with the help of onions. So now you know. Yeah, there we go. The Enigma. Here comes the water. Thank you.
Bang on cue.
Bang on cue. Okay. The Enigma. When science failed them, they turned to chromneomancy. And when the store of winter onions was depleted, they dyed feathers, wedged them in roof crevices to observe the sequence of the scatterings. They chose a bleating kid, cut out its heart. Realizing then the god's desertion, they cast teeth, sent offerings to the hermit of the woods. A fact-finding expedition crossed the wetlands on a train of camels, found nothing but a thick waxy residue where his cave had been. Folklore reports he wore a cape fashioned from the skins of sacred snakes. No one knew why or when to expect a recurrence. Their lives became a slim horizontal passageway through which no one came and no one went. Yes, this really happened. I'm going to read Lark at the dinner party, as Kirsten mentioned her and her dinner party in the introduction. Lark at the dinner party. They said it would take 20 minutes from the tube. She ascends, clutching everything she needs this evening. One stick of colour to slick her lips. One coiled string of pearls to double in her fingers, loop around an unsuspecting neck. 2 pens, excessive in a bag this size. Experience has taught her not to rely on ink, that it oozes. A while ago, the names of things deserted her. The notebook is a place for all that loss. Brother, duct tape, tarantula. The gin inside the bag, inside the bag. Press the bell, Lark, smile brightly. Yes, there we go. So, from one legend to another, this is a poem about my legendary father, and it's called Douglas, which funnily enough is his name. Right. Douglas. Suddenly he's 80, wearing a mask on his birthday and thinking of his girls. Oh, I need to tell you something before I do this. So you need to know that Shane Fenton is a pseudonym for Alvin Stardust. Does anybody remember Alvin Stardust? So he used to sing My Cuckoo and other top hits of the time. And he was a bit of he used to wear massive rings on his fingers. So he's very exciting pop star. So Douglas, suddenly he's 80, wearing a mask on his birthday and thinking of his girls in well-respected places, wondering if they're subverting the status quo like him, turning the tables on those who thought their brains were working faster. They saw him striding across campus and were mightily afeared. Then the stages of experimentation with facial hair, beards and whiskers, ginger-tinged moustaches, sideburns of different lengths, though never in the fashion of Shane Fenton, who he'd once seen emerging from the back of a van in Ambergate. Next, at Jack Taylor's gym, discovering his feet and punches were too slow. The story of his cousin, the lawn roller, a dog, a hill, and several fences. Finally, he's 8, already wearing glasses. I watch my dad like a mother. The spindly legs I recognise. His face as he sits, crouched beside the wireless, waiting for Zorro. Kirsten mentioned that some of these poems are related to women's time and women's experiences of time, and what could be more stereotypically feminine, I suppose, than a trip to the hairdresser. So here we are, here's my hairdresser. Tara, my hairdresser is young. She tells me which way round the cape goes like a coat, and I stick my arms in like a scarecrow. She asks me questions with dull answers. I'm not going out tonight. We haven't booked anything yet. What are the odds of reporting an occasion? Not high. Tara's going to a party, then lazy shopping. She might hang on for meatballs and lingonberry jam. Her eyebrows are balanced between branch and twig. She whisks the colour, listens carefully when I bring up translucency, what a lack of estrogen might do to curls. She got pregnant at 18. It sounds familiar. Tara slathers on the ash brown and we're silent, both of us thinking about roots. I'm going to take you back in time slightly, if I can find the page, to I come from Nottingham, and so you'll have heard, because of course poets are all mad keen football fans, you will have heard that Nottingham Forest have been promoted to the Premiership, and this poem is set in the time of the last ascent of Nottingham Forest, when actually Nottingham had two Premiership football teams, not Nottingham Forest, who were red, and not Nottingham County, Notts County, who were black and white. For me, this is the time of the specials, and the soundtrack of that time is ska music and that whole period of time. So this poem, Special, plays with that kind of idea, and it includes some lyrics that you might know from songs by the Specials. Special. Bring me Too Much Too Young on a portable in mono. The summer in 1979, we walked along the lonely street, not old enough for nightclubs or for beer that tastes like piss. We wanted other bodies pumping out their sweat, digging their feet into the floor, stinking, dirty dervishes headed for a long life without meaning and threads for dreams. This is not nostalgia. We wanted to be older than we were, to stay like that forever, to snog the fifth years riding into school on scooters like in Quadrophenia, wearing blazers with their trousers taken in, throwing over Forest, the county, to be more two-tone. It was the best and worst of times, the honest blink before synth pop. That was the next generation with their clappy Thatcher soundtrack, who don't remember gritted teeth to stop yourself from crying for Yotta Hughes, his hungry kids. So I won't dance in a club like this, where we are emotionally poor with the whole world in our palms, where the children's lunches come from food banks, where the government dither and delay do absolutely fucking nothing. Sorry, Mum. Yes, there we go. And I'll just do one. I think I've got time for one more. Is that right, Helen?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to finish off with Orlando, actually, and that's a great compliment, because that what Kirsten said, because actually in my, if it's possible to choose a top three, it's probably in my top three novels, Orlando, so that's fantastic. And it's great to see so many friends here this evening, but actually a lot of my best friends are inside books. So this poem is about some of them. Orlando. I was dry-mouthed in the Colosseum while you faced the lions, and we read classics and punted and foiled the mob and kept the diamonds. I wore your shoes, although they were too small for me, was your amanuensis, and we owned a sweet shop and a bookshop, and you were the book I took out and kept, then lent and never got back. We lived in frames opposite each other in the long gallery. My breeches were plum velvet and you wore a clove orange round your wrist, and we ached from quaffing sherbet and hid in the hollow of a tree. We were ravishing on chaise longue, brandishing gold-tipped cigarettes, and hoofers drying out our stockings over the bath, and boarders in the same dorm floating on our backs after a midnight feast in a natural pool filled by the tide. Thank you.